All right, so Facebook Live has not been performing so far today after numerous attempts at trying to use it. It's just not even loading. And so I wanted to get a training out for you guys based on information that's coming into the group. And one of the requests that people had gotten for these strategy reviews is to have ad copy reviewed so that and talk about like the elements that work and things like that. And I think that's a great idea and can contribute a lot of value to the group. And so what I would prefer to do is be able to utilize a customer example, which was so kindly provided here in what you're seeing on the screen today. So recently, one of the other members had posted this ad. And what I'm going to do is kind of go through this thing and give my opinion on the copy, along with giving a framework that we'll develop with different elements that we can include for this type of an ad. All right, so let me start by telling you a little bit about the company and the product first. We need to understand those elements before we put any copy together, before we use any lens of reviewing the copy. All right, so I happen to have a call with one of the owners of this product, and he had relayed how this works to me. And I also happen to have grown up in a hunting family, so I was familiar with this type of stuff. And what we're dealing with here is their product is a system for installing a deer stand for hunting purposes, and it's far safer than the other systems out on the market. And so people can legitimately die from these systems failing and falling out of trees. So the main points that we're trying to make is emphasizing the safety, and then there's also it's quite a bit easier to use and install than most other systems on the market. So knowing that it's safer and easier, that's generally going to be some kind of element to the copy that we're going to want to have. Right now, while we're talking about this, there's actually several elements to copy that we always want to have. All right, so the first thing that we need to include is we got to have a powerful hook. Okay, hook or headline. Right now, inside of Facebook, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be inserting this as the link headline in your ad. That's when you're setting up your ad in the ads manager, that will go in the link headline area. All right, now, part of this powerful hook, we need to have a certain amount of different elements. Now, I learned this information in a book called Tested Advertising Methods by John Caples. So Caples worked at an advertising agency in the mid-1900s, and he was very scientific in measuring the results of their advertising that they were doing across the mediums of the day, a lot of it being direct mail and print stuff, even TV. And so he would spend his entire career analyzing the data based on coupon codes and actual responses that they received from their advertising, and he would figure out what headlines would work and what elements of a winning headline were there. That was their primary order of study, because they identified through other studies that the headline or the hook is the single most important item in selling a product or service, right? And now it's been my experience with Facebook that is exactly the same. Now, you will hear people say that the image is the number one important thing. No, the image can help with getting attention, but there's profitable attention and unprofitable attention. And the most important thing is your message, right? Now, we're assuming that your offer is good here. The offer is the most important thing. But when we have that piece assumed that the offer is good, then when we're putting our ads together, the headline is going to be the most important thing. So the first thing that Caples says that we need to have in a powerful headline that's going to get sales is self-interest. Okay? Now, you've probably heard that people are walking around tuned into a single radio station called WIIFM, and that stands for What's in It for Me. That's all people care about. Okay? So how do we show self-interest in a headline? Typically, what we do is we use you and your or your language so that we're framing everything in our headline in terms of what they get, right? So coming over here real quick, now this ad, the way it was posted in here, it doesn't format exactly the way that it would in the news feed. So I don't know, there could be some formatting issues as a result of that. I think that these extra line breaks are as a result of that, and I also think that we're not seeing the link headline area on this as a result of this. So this first line in your post text copy can actually be your hook, and I oftentimes will use a different variation of that hook. And so, you know, assuming this was the hook, you see how he's used your and your, right? So there's that self-interest is included in there. It's about the user, all right? So we got to use that language. And then another thing that we're going to include is the benefit, right? So, you know, what is the benefit? That's all part of the self-interest. Okay, so we want to have benefit in there. Another element that we need to that we can have that's not required, but if we added it, it helps a lot, is newsworthiness. So making it new. They found in all their studies that you know, people just, and I've seen some different, I'm talking about Caples here now, and then I'll talk about some other studies, but in Caples stuff, they found that you know, there was a direct correlation to you know, having something being shown as new to the amount of sales. And oftentimes what they would do is the classic putting lipstick on a, you know, different coat of lipstick on a pig. And they would just reframe things or come from a different angle and position it as being new, and that would boost sales back up. So, you know, it's a element of a powerful headline. It's not required, but if you can work it in there, you should. Self-interest and benefit are required. Now, another one is curiosity. All right. So this one is one you got to be careful with. All right. So if you can add it on top of these other two at minimally, or the other three, then you've got a super, super, super powerful headline. Now, what I've seen in my experience, and I've tested it just because, you know, I don't take everything at face value. Caples talks about how, you know, if you have a curiosity-only driven headline, and I'll give you an example of this. So you've seen this probably before, like in clickbait stuff. You'll never believe what happens next or happened next, right? That's an entirely curiosity-based headline, okay? If you do something exclusively with curiosity, it will get a lot of attention and it'll get clicks, but it does not convert on its own merit into sales, right? So that's why this type of thing has been referred to as clickbait now, right? That's why this is a clickbait headline, because it's designed to psychologically get people to click, because we want to click on stuff that we're curious about, but it has no intention of generating a sale or flagging an ideal audience. It's just trying to get as many people using psychological tricks to click. But if you wrap the curiosity into a headline that has all of these other elements, or at least the self-interest and some sort of benefit, so that there's a clearly defined target audience, then you can have a super, super, super powerful headline. All right, so if we understand that, and we're assuming that this headline for this device over here is this first line is the headline for the device. We need to have at least the first two elements. We've got self-interest in here, but we don't have a benefit into that headline, right? Now, the other thing that I don't like with this particular question as a headline is that it's extremely limiting in scope. And this is where we can run into issues with the scalability of our ad based on the specific language that we're using, right? So you have to think of this stuff from your ideal customer's perspective. They're a person sitting on their Facebook scrolling through, and you ask them this question. So if your answer, so here's the thing. If they answer, your scale is limited to the amount of people that will answer yes to that question. So your assumption here is that there's a lot of people that are in your target audience that have had their life flash before their eyes while hunting elevated. All right. Now, if we know based on data that resonates with a huge chunk of the market, then that's a good question. Now, if we just pulled that out of thin air and it's not based off of like feedback and market research and experience in the market, then we are going to have some issues with that question, because if it only resonates with a small group of the audience, then only those people are going to convert on this. And it may be a very good hook, but it may be too small and be narrowing your reach into the market. Okay, so now coming back to reviewing this copy, now here's another kind of weird thing about the way that this is structured. We're having a one-to-one conversation, and that's kind of how Facebook works, but then we turn it into a two-to-one conversation, because now it's ours has, and it's like there's multiple people speaking to one person. And then we get into 6 years ago, our friend, right? So it's just kind of weird. This probably would be better served as, having a different kind of transition, right? Like, if this is a common question or a common thing, then, it would be like, you would say something along the lines of, we hear it from, it's a common experience among hunters. And then we would tell this story about 6 years ago, a customer of ours, right? Or something along those lines instead of like our friend. We want to get that kind of we language out of there because we want to make it still sound like a one-to-one thing at the same time instead of, having this multi-person conversation. It's kind of odd when people are reading it on more of a subconscious level. But these little things make a huge difference. Okay, so as I just went and read through the copy to be able to kind of just give an overarching opinion of it. So like it's kind of clunky in the story and the flow and the way that the points are being made. Like you've got some good points in here, but it needs quite a bit more smoothing up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here and I'm going to put down a framework for this particular ad of the elements to put together. And then what I'll do is I'll actually write a version and model that out so you guys can see what that's like. All right, so when I'm developing the hook out, what I want to do is also get an understanding of the product. And so oftentimes I go to I always go to the product page, and oftentimes when I go here, I will find copy that usually gives us a good place to find the hook, because what we're trying to do is really, highlight like the main reason, the main benefit that somebody's going to get out of using this. And then we can put that into the form of self-interest and add newsworthiness and curiosity to that headline, right? Because that's the first thing that we want to write. So, when I look at this stuff here, there's a couple things that I can see. So, what happens here is this power grab gives them an arm's length away so that they can easily see where they're going, right? So that provides more, allows them to transition safely and comfortably from the stick to the stand without worrying about slipping and falling. Okay, so they get increased visibility and increased safety and comfort, right? So that they don't have that, so that they're free from worry of falling from this stand. Okay, so here's how we can go about putting that kind of information into a headline. All right, so I'm going to add newsworthiness right away. We can do that simply by adding the word now. Now you can transition from stick to stand with safely and comfortably. Okay, so we're highlighting that main benefit. It's the safety and the comfort, right? So now you can transition from stick to stand. We're using language that they're going to understand, right? That's the language of the market, and what we're conveying is that's where the danger is, right? Because everyone that's in this market that is using these stick operated deer stands where they have these sticks underneath them, they know that's a worry, right? So now you can transition from stick to stand safely and comfortably, right? So that's an example of how we do that. So that gives us newsworthiness because we use now. It's got the benefit because they get the safety and the comfort, and it's got the self-interest because it's talking about them and it's their safety and comfort. Right now, what we've also done is we've added curiosity into that because we haven't said how. So that's going to make them want to read more because now they're going to want to know how can I transition from stick to stand safely and comfortably. And that's where we come in with our rest of our ad copy. So this would be what we would put in as our hook or headline, and that's going to go in the link headline area on the ad. Okay. So that's what we're going to do there. So that's, you come up with that first, right? Now we can start with the body copy, right? So if we come back to this example here, we'd want to start off with the story because the stories are powerful. And so I'm going to teach you a framework that's called problem, solution, benefit. So we start with the problem, we're going to give the solution, we're going to give the benefits, and then we're going to have a call to action as the last part of that, or CTA. Okay, so I'm going to say call to action, CTA. All right, so what we're going to do is across all of this stuff, we're going to wrap that in a pretty little story, right? So we're going to tell a story to take people through all of those elements, all right? So what we could do here is something like this. It was a typical opening season morning. Fred, or whoever, you can tell it from whoever's perspective. Fred was up a bit late the night before and barely got out with a cup of coffee before daylight hit. As he was doing his normal transition from stick to stand, something abnormal happened. When Fred put his foot out, it slipped. He missed his hand mark and fell. And then you can elaborate that story a little bit more, right? Or you can go a different route. Like, it depends on what kind of like actual material you got here. This is all being made up right now, but I want, if you've got real life proof of stories like this, then we can modify these in this way. But there's any number of ways that could go. Like, if he actually fell, then it would be, you'd want to tell the rest of the story is going to be about how what this whole thing is designed to do is prevent these situations from happening, right? And now Fred swears by Fred was thankfully recovered from his injuries and he's back out hunting still, but he swears by these this device now, and he won't get in a stand without one. The other is he could have had one of these, and as he slipped, he was able to grab onto this handle, or thankfully he had his hand on this handle, and when his foot slipped, he was right there, and he didn't, and nothing moved, and everything was fine, right? So that's kind of how we open up with that story a little bit better. Okay, so that covers the problem portion, right? And so right when we get to that transition piece of the solution, then we're going to talk about this power grip thing. Yeah, thankfully, so we could do it like this. Thankfully, Fred had put in his new Treestand power grab this season. Like many other hunters, Fred was always a bit skeptical about the transition between stick to stand. He had saw how easy the power grab made the transition. It allows for it keeps you at a full arm. It keeps you at a full arm's length from the tree, so you have total visibility into your transition. So you no longer have to hug the tree and hope to find your spot. Okay, so as I'm writing this, you see what I'm doing is I'm telling the story to explain the benefit, right? This benefit is part of this is the solution. I'm talking about the solution, and I'm giving the benefits at the same time. The solution is this Treestand power grab, right? So thankfully he had that, right? And the benefits are it made his transition easy. He's getting total visibility in his transition. He no longer has to hug the tree and hope to find a spot. So those are benefits, and I'm taking away like objections at the same time. I'm trying to remove all of the biggest issues that they have with their current solution, right? All right, so I'm just trying to add some other elements into this here now. The super wide handle is perfect for using with gloves of all sizes. Now you can use this to prevent worrying about that pesky transition from stick to stand forever. All right, now we're going to go into the call to action, all right? You can get your Treestand power grab for only $19.99. Just click here and order yours today. And you put your link here. And then you can also remind them of the benefits and everything here too. So, you know, and oftentimes you'll want to use that maybe in the form of a question, and that can work really well right here. So, you know, don't you believe it's worth $19.99 to make it safer and easier to get in your stand, your tree stand? You know, something like that. And then you can give another little link. Click here to order now. Okay, so that's how we you know, use this format here. So that's problem, solution, benefit, call to action.
All right, I hope you found that video to be helpful in creating and scaling profitable ads for your business. You can go ahead and use what we talked about in there to model and implement new tactics and strategies into your business. And that really is the difference between winning and losing the paid ad game. You see, after profitably spending over $30 million over the years, generating over $100 million in sales for my clients, I've seen everything when it comes to profitably scaling campaigns. And I can tell you that right now, in today's day and age, that a course is not going to give you the solution that you need to scale and make the most money out of your ads possible. As an advertiser running ads today, what you need is you need help with answering the question, what do I do now? That video that I just showed you was a response to one of our clients inside of our Academy of Advertising Profit Society. And that is our program that we put together specifically to help advertisers like you to answer that question, what do I do now? The way that it works is that we can give you customized solutions to your specific issues that are preventing you from scaling your campaigns and making the kind of money that you want to make. And for the right person, I can actually guarantee your results. That's right. This is like nothing else that you've ever seen out there before. I can literally guarantee your results, and I can guarantee quite a bit of results for you if you're the right person. Now, like I said, this isn't for everybody. So if you're interested in being able to leverage the strategies and the systems and the processes that are based on my past experience and the current experience that me and my team have running ads right now at scale for big name clients and ourselves, then go ahead and click on the link that's below here. We're going to have links all over the video here, and you can learn more on the next page. And if that's something that you would like to take advantage of, we've got a special offer for brand new clients, and you can enroll, and we'd be happy to help you to solve that question over and over and over again. What do I do now? What do I do now? So we get your campaigns to the profit promised land and just keep them there for as long as possible so that you're making money and feeling good and having the lifestyle that you want on your business, because that's what this is all about. Okay, so go ahead and click, learn more on the next page. I look forward to helping you. To the victor belong the spoils.